What's the deal? I'm Dale Cover. Welcome to another very special episode of the podcast. You know, we're in the middle of our entrepreneur series. We got all kinds of entrepreneurs, from poets to business owners to public speakers. And we are joined today by a very special guest, poet and author, Mr. Damont Combs. What up, Damont?
It's good.
How you doing? Nice to see you. Glad you're here today. Go ahead, man. Share that. Make sure you take care of that social media. Make sure it gets shown on your page while I do the same. How you guys doing? Happy Sunday. We just got through another snowstorm. Hope everybody, well, I say that with an asterisk. Hope everybody's okay with that. Yeah.
The weather's a lot better. Still a little murky out there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. So thanks for coming down, man.
It was my pleasure.
Yes. So you're a poet, and a lot comes with that. Not just a poet, but you do a lot of different things with that. And I see you very active. And we had a conversation maybe like almost a week ago. We didn't get to finish it because we were kind of busy running around at this other event. So tell the people that don't know who Damont Combs is about you, brother.
All right, so my name is Damont Combs. I'm a poet in Providence. I've performed all over. I have 2 poetry books out, My Poem, My Riddle, and A Touch of Orange. I have them in almost all the bookstores in Rhode Island. I mean, as far as Providence is concerned, I have one in Pawtucket, and I have another one also in New York City. Mm-hmm. I've been performing in Providence for over 8 years now. Shout out to Providence, Rhode Island. New York, that's where I'm from. Southside Jamaica, Queens. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, man. All right. So you came from Jamaica, Queens. Shout out to Jamaica, Queens. My cousin's from Jamaica, Queens. What brought you to Rhode Island?
All right, so I went to Rhode Island for school. I heard about this school called Johnston Will University. I was like, oh, okay. So it's far enough away from New York where I wasn't too close to my mother. Right. But it was close enough where I could drive down if I needed to.
And everybody else probably thought you were in Long Island.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. They always got confused.
Yeah. So you went to Johnson and Wales. You didn't study cooking, though.
Nope, that's the funny thing. When I was in New York, I went to school for technology. Yep. Computer technology. And then I graduated and I said, well, let me continue. So I went to Johnson & Wales. They had this program called Computer Technology Services, and I felt like that's the degree that I wanted to go for. And that's what I did. I went for Computer Technology Services and graduated with my associates.
Nice. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's interesting because they say, since you're an artist, right, a poet, they say left brain, right brain. But I find that a lot of artists are also engineers. They have engineering background. For example, there's a couple comics that I know. The Laughter Therapist, Karina Fort. She's a comedian. She's very funny, and she has a technical background. There's another one that I know from Weston, Massachusetts. I forget her name right now, but she's also an IT person. So that's kind of interesting. And myself, I got a technical background as well. Right.
Yeah, so look at that. Well, IT is the big field. It's the big money-making field if you can find a good job.
Yeah.
When I was at JU, I did have a couple of jobs. I worked with them for a couple of years, and then I found another technical job after that, and then it was just really difficult to find technical jobs these days that are in Providence.
In Providence.
That's why Boston, yeah.
That's why the Batcave is here and not in Providence, strictly for that reason. Because there's more of a market a little bit north. Just 50 miles north of Providence.
It's something I didn't want to do that drive. That 40-minute drive a lot. A lot of people do that. They'll live in Providence. Mm-hmm. They'll go to Boston, and then they'll do that drive every single day. The wear and tear on the car, the $300 it costs to take the train. Why should you do that?
The time is stuff. Yeah.
Why should you go through that when in Smithfield there's a lot of technical stuff? A lot of the big name companies, they run out of Smithfield, like Woonsocket,
FM Global, things like that.
All of that. So, but it's like a cycle with the tech world out there. It's like, are they going to work at this job? They're going to hire you for help desk this job, and it's very, very specific. And then half the time they're not even hiring.
Right. So you said, the heck with that, I'm going to get into poetry?
Well, I have a wife and son. Mm-hmm. I met my wife a couple of years, like maybe in 2012. We had our son, and then it was like, all right, do I move or do I stay? So I found a job doing something. I worked at a bank, and then it was like, all right, once that job
You
ended,
just gave no credit to that bank. You was just like, I found a job doing something.
I don't know. I don't want to put the bank out there.
Right. We don't want to do that, but you definitely gave them no credit.
They're awesome. The people there, I love you guys. But I don't know if they'll throw them out there.
Yeah. No, don't throw them out there.
So after that, I was like, all right, I can take this time to look for another job, or I could take this time because when I was working there and all up until that point, I kept publishing, I kept doing poetry, I kept doing tech on the side. I would go to different businesses and I would fix their computers, even while I was working. So even though I was working one job, I was working like 5.
Yeah.
At any given time, I was still going to New York City.
That explains Jamaica, Queens. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was still going to New York City at the time, performing at events in New York, in Delaware, in Connecticut, in Boston. I was still going to do different events throughout the time. So I'm just like, you know what? I published 2 books. Why not just see where this can go?
When did you publish the books? How long from when you started to your poetry did you go and publish the books? Because that's a big deal, publishing a book.
I didn't publish a book until maybe... Well, let me correct myself. When I was in New York City, I went to a different school, Queensborough Community College, and I only did that for maybe less than a year because I didn't want to go to Queensborough. Nothing against Queensborough, I just wanted out of New York at the time.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I had joined this group, and the group had published a poetry book within that group, and I was a part of that group. That would technically be my first book. It's called The Documentation of Their Beings. That book is not even. I don't think it's sold anymore. I only had a limited copy. But my first official published book wasn't until I came to Providence, and I had performed for like 4 years, and then 5 years, and then it was just I was sitting there one day, and it was like, oh, there was an event I had to go to. In order for me to go to that event, I had to have a published book.
Oh, okay.
So I proceeded to go to shop around, and I met. I didn't meet. I knew about this wonderful, wonderful poet, Max, and then Tribal Rain. They have what is called Prysmatic Dreams Publishing Company, and I went to them, and I'm like, all right, I want you guys to publish my first book. And I went to them. I did it, and I didn't even go to the event.
Right. But that's okay because you got that book out of it. That encouraged you, inspired you to do that.
Yes.
Motivated you, I should say.
I already had the poetry already written. I just put the poems together and was like, all right, this is going to be intimate to me because the poetry in my first book, my poem, my riddle, is very thought engaging. It's mostly things that I've written in high school, teenage love, loss, the extremes of life. And that was in like I said, maybe 2014. I published that, and then it was like, this isn't to my most up-to-date poetry.
Because you put down a lot of stuff that you had up until then.
Yeah, I had put down a lot of stuff up until then. Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop, and I'm going to focus on this book. So when I first started my journey with the book, I went to all the bookstores in Providence, and they were telling me no. They were like, no. Finally, I went to Sell Stories bookstore, and I went up there, and I'm like, listen, just give me a shot, put my book in the store, and you won't regret it. He was like, okay, yes.
So let me ask you what that looks like, because I never had a book. I never approached a bookstore. So you just walk in and just ask, what are you asking for? Shelf space? What are you asking for?
It's called, you put your books on consignment. And what that is it's you put your book in the bookstore. It has to sell within a certain amount of time. If your book sells within that time, then you continue supplying the book with the bookstore.
Great.
The books with the bookstore. So it's normally a time span on it. If you don't meet that time span, they can either return the book to you or they get to keep the book. Depends on what kind of contract you sign. Then you also give away...
That's an interesting choice. Right.
Then you also give away a percentage of the royalties. So if they sell, it's like some places it's 30, some places you can negotiate, some places you can't negotiate. They have a set price and that's it. But I feel like for me, I had to break down all the barriers to do that. Because again, there were certain stores that were telling me no. The moment I still get some stores like Symposium. they're not necessarily open to consignment for local artists. But I went to Sell Stories bookstore. I went inside. I said, "Hey, can you guys put my book on consignment?" They were like, "Yes, we'll do it for you." They put my book on consignment. I went back to the bookstores that told me no, and I said, "Listen, I have my book in this store. They're gonna take my book. Will you take my book?" They're like, "Yes, we'll take your book now." Nothing had changed. It was just a hustle. And then I went back to all the other bookstores that told me no. And then I said, "I have my book in this store and this store."
Right.
And they were like, "All right." And then it just kept going. At one time, this is all just my first book. This is within like the first 2 years I was doing this.
Yes.
And I had to promote each one. And at that point...
Promote each store?
Each store.
Yes.
So
okay.
it was over a span of a couple of months that I would do this because I wanted to focus on each store. So that way people can go to the bookstore and get the book. Then it became to a point where I had my book in like 4 or 5 stores. And I was like, all right, I need to focus on my second book, which was A Touch of Orange, which is the stuff that I have been performing throughout Providence, throughout New York, throughout all of that, and I had learned. So I was like, all right, let me get this book done. And that was around 2017, so that was last year. And I got the book published by, I decided to go with, I want to do color. I wanted to add artwork in it. I wanted to have a lot of deeper meaning. I didn't have a lot of money when I first started.
Yeah.
So I had to save up the money, and I wanted to give as much possible in the second book that I know that I could not have given. I didn't have the creativity at the time to do it. Now I had the creativity. I employed a local artist named Shayna Suarez, and she does wonderful interpretive artwork in my book, A Touch of Orange.
So let's back up a second. I kind of wanted to ask you a question. So when you say publishing, when you say I wanted this person or this group to help me publish the book, what does that actually mean?
Okay, so...
Because the reason why I say that is because it sounds like you were responsible for doing the work to getting it in the store. Well, I guess that's a distributor. You were playing that role. But you tell me, what does that mean when you say publish?
It depends on what kind of contract you sign, what kind of publishing company you find. The way that I worked mine out is I wanted the control of the books. I wanted to know where they're going, who they're going to. So what I did was I was like, all right, you guys are going to send me my books, and I'll take care of it after that.
So when you say publisher, their job was to actually make it into physical form?
Yes, put the book into physical form, help me shape it, make sure it looks good, make sure that it sounds great, edit it up to make sure that the words, there's no grammatical errors.
Oh, okay.
And then
creation,
after...
proofreading.
And then there's a little bit more because... See, when you a lot of poets at the time that I was around, they didn't go through a publishing company and actually publish their book. They did it through they were self-publishing. They would go in the store, create the book, print out the little pages, click it together as staples, and then try to sell it. They had CDs too. They do that the same way.
Okay.
Which isn't I don't want to say it's not professional. But my book got on Amazon through a publisher. There's only certain steps that you can take when you have a publisher versus when you don't. Like, there are certain websites that I can't go on because I'm through a publishing company. I have to go to my publisher and say, can you put me on this website? They have to sign me up for it because they have all the information. When it's copywritten in the publishing company's name. But it's all my work. And it all depends on who you're publishing with. Some publishing companies, depending on like the contests, let's say. There's a lot of contests out there where you would create a book, submit the book, they choose your book, they give you a certain amount of money, and then they say, okay, we'll open up XYZ, we're going to distribute your book for you to put it on the bookstores, and whatever bookstore they choose. We're going to determine what rights and all that other kind of stuff you're going to get, and then we're going to make you do book signings. I didn't get my first book signing. No, I take that back.
Yeah.
I did. I did a book signing for A Touch of Orange.
Yeah.
At Cafe Soul last year.
Okay.
And then that was my official book release.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. It's been 1 year. So then after that, I just to catch you guys up on everything. It was maybe November. I had started to say to myself, all right, I'm gonna go full time into poetry. So then I went full time. I was like, I'm gonna do everything I possibly can in the poetry world. For me, what that looks like is I have to, first of all, create my third book. Then I was like, all right, maybe I could do an audiobook for my Touch of Orange so people can get it when they're driving. So that's one of the projects and goals that I'm working on now. I have to create content on YouTube and all social media platforms to get people to follow me. So that's consistent. I have to re-edit poetry. I have to work with local artists. See, everything for me is local, Providence, and maybe New York. I did it all in between that. I was still doing poetry outside of the state. I did create an organization called Orange Live. And that started 2 years prior when I first did my first book. I went to different states and I brought local artists that had been published, such as myself, and artists like Queen G, who was just a representative for Women of the World Poetry Slam. Marie Mikael, who at that point had 2 books out, Said Bed to You, and Windy City Poems of Lust and Desire. I had brought them down to New York at Bowery Poetry Club. I had hosted my own event called Orange Live. I had did the 7th Annual Poetry Festival, and then I had a second Orange Live there. Then I brought it back to Rhode Island by popular request. And then I had Compassionate Poets come to New York as well. They're a poetry group in Massachusetts comprised of different local artists there. Then I had Dope Rebels from New York City come. They're a rap group from New York. So I have had different things, but mostly all local. And I always try to bring an artist from Rhode Island down and communicate with to bridge that gap between local and non-local. See, I found that throughout the years as I was, going to venues, they would bring people from Boston, but it was very rare that you see a local comedian such as yourself become a feature at that event. You would be the main person because you were there every single week. So it was almost rare for that. So I was like, I'm going to employ that. Another thing I didn't like was they didn't pay their artists. I didn't like that. It was non-profit or profit. I believe that the artist should be paid. If you can't pay them, take a donation. If you can't take a donation, start a Kickstarter and say they're going to be a feature. If you can't, there's always a way to provide. If you can't do that, say, hey, listen, another day I'll take you out to eat. Something. Especially if you're charging at the door. If you're charging at the door and you're collecting money at the door and it's not a free event completely and you're making money and you're not paying that person to entertain your guests, that's a problem. And a lot of big name industry people host events like that, especially sometimes nonprofit where I want you to give me the best performance possible. They're going to charge you at the door and you got to pay to get in and you got to perform 10 minutes, 20 minutes, some of your best work, and you don't get paid.
Yes.
It's like, no, I'm not.
Some events will tell you have to bring 10 people or you can't get on the stage. Right. Yes. That's the game in some places.
So I'm a big advocate for local artists, paying them, because if you don't invest in the community that you're in and bring that community together, especially in the art community, and you're not supporting each other, then no one benefits from it. I think that's probably the reason why in Providence there was at least 6 venues at one point. Now I can probably name 2 that are consistent, not just once a month, that are actually twice a month or at least consistent. That's Cafe Soul and AS220. Before it was, when I was in Providence 2012, it was the Blue State Coffee House. They had it every Tuesday. You had the Spot, the Underground Spot. Then you had Black Repertoire at one point, and then I switched over to the Roots.
Mhm.
So it was a couple of other venues, all due to mismanagement or due to some form or another, ended up closing shop or closing their doors. Brooklyn Tea Coffee House was another one that ran for a couple of years that eventually stopped. So to me, I just think that if, as artists, we invest back into our community, we'll reopen the doors to that.
Mhm.
So fast forwarding to me deciding to go full-time into poetry,
Yep. Go ahead. I'm gonna check any questions here. Keep going.
I was like, all right. I hit up one of the bookstores, and it took me a year to get the book signing, the official Providence book signing. I had went to them, and I'm like, all right, because on consignment, granted, you have a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
I went to them, and I'm like, listen, I want this book. I can't, because up until that, a lot of the bookstores I had to get creative in order to get my name out there. Because when you put your book in the bookstore, it's your job to promote, but they don't necessarily open the door for a book signing. They don't necessarily say, hey, they have a section for you. They put you in that section, that's it. End of story. You don't get a book signing. You walk outside that door, you can probably give them a flyer or something, and then they'll say, oh, put it up or not put it up. But there's nothing stating, I'm an artist in Providence. I'm new here. This is my book. I'm giving it to you. Come to me. I will sign it for you. Nothing like that. And I had took a year, Books on the Square. I had worked with a wonderful person named Vanessa. And we had set up where it was going to be official book signing for me in January. So the moment I decided to go full-time, that's what I kept doing. I would hit up all the news people. I typed up the thing, put it in the event calendar. I put it in. Now they had sent out They had sent out newsletters. They had sent out everything on their side. I just went on and just did extra work just to try to get it out there. The book signing came. A lot of people came out, so I sold a lot of books that particular day. And I had the wonderful pleasure of having a sponsorship from another local organization called Food for Good. Food for Good donates a portion of their proceeds every month to feed the homeless. I think it's like 30%. And then they sometimes volunteer to go to the homeless shelter and go get food. And they're a food truck here in Rhode Island. I happen to know the owner, Julius. Sorry, not Aaron, it's Julius. Me and him went to JWU together. So I had the pleasure of them sponsoring for the food portion of my book signing, and everything went well.
Nice. That's great. What's the significance of the orange?
I love that. So for me, orange, I just started wearing it because it's my favorite color. A lot of people, it happened maybe about like 2011. I got the moniker named Mr. Orange, and it was given to me by another poet named Eunice, because he kept saying, everything you're wearing is orange. So after that, I was like, all right, so orange has to represent something.
Yeah.
I wrote a poem based on that, and to me, it just keeps me going. Orange represents passion. It represents fire, and the community holds me to a standard. I cannot walk out the house without wearing something orange now. I have to. People have literally stopped me and said, Damont, you're not wearing orange today. Where's your orange? So it became something where I had to get business cards just so I would have to change up my wardrobe. Because I don't know if you realize this, but it is very difficult to find good quality clothing that is orange.
Yeah.
So I had to get creative. That's not online. I'm talking about in local stores.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a lot of money to keep spending too.
Well, you branded yourself,
and so
and that's what it is.
Orange became a brand.
Yeah.
And in college, I was looked at as the weird guy that constantly wore orange. Like, he was weird, but they didn't understand even back then that I had a brand. This is me. When you see orange, you're gonna think of me. You're going to think of my brand. You're going to think Damont, and then if you think Damont, you're going to think poetry, or you're going to think technology. Either or.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, have you started writing the third book?
The poetry is written.
But like, I guess the question was, what's the theme of that? So the second book was
A Touch of Orange.
A Touch of Orange. What was it? What does that mean? Like there's, I guess there's a certain theme to it.
Yeah. So A Touch of Orange is that little bit of passion, that little bit of fire that everyone needs to have in their life. That continuance to continue to rise. It has to be there. Even if it's just small. See, when I got that also from the community, people will require me to wear orange. So, I was like, all right, maybe if I just wear a touch of orange. So in my shoes, there's orange. When I go out to events, I'm wearing this. If not, then I have my business cards which are orange. My socks would be orange. I have a belt that would be orange. Something would be orange. There would be a touch of orange somewhere on me.
Yeah.
So it gave me the freedom to dress how I wanted to dress, but have style.
Yep, and still have that brand awareness about you.
Exactly. So that's where the title comes from.
Nice.
And then it also relates to the poem that I have as well. Yeah. And the book itself is the extremes, again, of life. Happiness, sadness, love, family. And the artwork in the book is amazing.
Okay. And the book, your next book, is there a certain theme to that you have in mind?
It's probably going to be, the name will be Paint the Town.
Okay.
You know what color?
Yellow and blue. No, I got it. Yeah.
That's the idea.
Paint the Town. Nice.
That's probably what I'm working on the name now, and the work inside is going to be comprised of, I have a grand scheme. Eventually, I want everyone to start wearing orange.
Okay. All right. You hear that, people?
Yeah.
Aren't you glad that Damont stopped by? I'll put you on the spot.
Okay.
Do you have a poem that you are able to recite?
Of course, always.
All right, cool.
Always.
Yeah. All right, yeah, because I would definitely like the people to hear what you got, brother. That's dope. Someone just shared. Cool.
Okay, you want me to do it now?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So I'll do my orange one.
All right, orange.
Orange plasmatic flames rise above all else, consuming as is the most beautiful sight above all else, to the dawning of the sun, to the rising of the morning, to the burning of all things burning, orange will rise. Camouflage in the wilderness, life depends on it, to the deepest depths of darkness, accompanied by orange. The tiger's true colors appear, and orange shows no fear. Juices flowing, sun-bathed bath near the equators might only in warm weather can an orange tree grow. Orange seeds, I spit seeds instead of spilling seeds that bleed my heart. Orange. And until the orange is recognized, I will keep wearing the brightly colored color to the love song sing notes in my favorite color. Orange to you, I dedicate this poem to. Orange. I'll admit, I'm just a little, not a lot, but a little bit, tiny, obsessed with you.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, man.
So, that's the poem.
I love it, man. So, let's see. You got anything coming up real soon? I saw you had a poetry class that you might be teaching in April or something like that.
I was supposed to do that. That fell through.
Okay.
Due to unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah,
things happen. I'm not saying that I won't teach a poetry class in the future. I do plan on doing that. I actually will do that at some point in time. I've taught poetry in classes before at Johnson & Wales. I have this wonderful. I've mentored. I can't get on here without mentioning a previous student of mine, if that's what you want to say. I've mentored her, and her name is Deanna Liz. She is a model. She created what is called the Naked Campaign. And the Naked Campaign is bringing mental health awareness to rape victims and domestic violence and of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
She had her soft launch actually, in ATL. I went down there and I supported her, and the event was great. We got into Rolling Out magazine. My performances there, I wrote her a poem years before. It's called Hold Her. And I was just so proud of her because when we were doing poetry, she had this vision, and like she didn't just like say, okay, I'm gonna do a poet, I'm just gonna be a poet. That's not what she did. She took that and said, I'm gonna incorporate the poetry into what I want to do with my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The overall grand scheme of it, and that's what I would love for people who don't do poetry. Learn it, and then incorporate it into whatever you want to incorporate into, and that's going to take creativity, time, and thought. She took the poetry and added it as just another layer to what she does. And she took the poem, created a poetry video. With that video, talked about the domestic violence situation on top of the whole event. So that's what she did with that. And that's just one facet of what she does. So for anyone else that I'm teaching poetry to, I use her as a model and an example to say, look, I could teach you the tools, but only you can apply the tools the way that you can apply them.
Yep.
A lot of people say, oh, I don't like poetry. If you don't like poetry and you haven't heard me, then there's a problem.
Right. All right. So that's awesome. So kind of poetry became like a tool in her bag. That's a good way to look at things, man. I love it. So tell the people how they can find you, how they can connect with you.
I'm on all social media, almost all social media platforms.
Not MySpace.
Even MySpace.
Yeah. Are you?
Yes. Mr. Orange Live at that's my Instagram, Mr. Orange Live. My Facebook is My Poem, My Riddle, the name of my first book. Twitter is My Poem, My Riddle again. So Facebook.com/My Poem, My Riddle, Twitter.com, My Poem, My Riddle, Instagram at Mr. Orange Live.
Okay. Awesome.
And my website is combsdamont.tk.
.tk. combsdamont.tk. All right, there it is. One last question. Is there a word that rhymes with orange?
There is no word that rhymes with orange.
You might have to create that, brother. If anyone can do it, you can. I wonder why that is. Or is not.
Well, it works out for me because I a lot of people say, oh, it's rap poetry. I feel like it's just one form of it. It's just another form. Rhyme is another form of poetry. It's just another way to express yourself in written form. There's 52 different types of poetry. A lot of that poetry is in the way that it's cadenced, and some of it does rhyme, some of it doesn't. A lot of people aren't aware that they may be even writing poetry when they're rapping. Like when they're writing, like they don't understand the structure. They don't know which one it is. You just got to look it up and you say, oh wow, I didn't know I did that. Or, oh wow, that's what I'm doing. You know, it's all layered out prior. And I've had the blessing and privilege of performing with and being around other artists that's done it for years. Rick McIntyre, Eunice, the whole Brothers Keeper. You know, I've got the chance to perform for Reggie Gibson. His life was based off of the movie Love Jones. Shout out to the lovely wife, Yolanda. She's actually, after this, when I'm leaving here at 2 o'clock, I have to go to the Maya Angelou event that's happening. They're going to be reading Maya Angelou, her poetry. And I'm going to be going there to see her perform.
Where's that at?
It's, I have to look that up.
In Providence?
Yes, in Providence at the church.
Okay. Google it. You should be able to find it.
Yes, Google it.
All right. Cool, man. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is Damont Combs and everything he does. Check him out on social media and his website. And until next time. Live every minute, love every moment, and laugh every single day. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
Good job.